You sold the trade. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it just felt wrong. But at that exact moment, someone else was getting in. And they weren't panicking. They were waiting. For you. Because your exit wasn't just an exit. It was a signal. A gift. A predictable, emotional reaction that completed their plan. Most traders think in isolation. They act like the market revolves around their own strategy, their own timeline, their own emotions. But this isn't a solo game. You're not alone in here. Every order you place affects someone else's play. Every time you click sell, you create an opportunity for someone watching. You think you're acting independently, but in reality, you're part of a bigger structure, a flow of money, fear, hope, and timing. And that flow doesn't care how you feel. It rewards those who can control themselves, and it punishes those who react. Because for every trade you close in panic, someone else is entering with calm. For every time you say, I can't take this drawdown, someone else says, now. And they're not guessing. They've seen it before. Your exit is part of their system. You feel the need to get out, but they've already mapped that moment. They've positioned just under your fear, just beyond your stop, just behind your emotion. So when you exit, they enter. And when they exit, they're already in profit. Because you gave them your position. The market doesn't punish emotion. It consumes it. And someone always benefits. That's the lesson. You're not just clicking buttons. You're broadcasting your mindset. Your fear is visible. And if it's visible, it's tradable. So the next time you feel that heat in your chest, that pulse of anxiety telling you to get out, pause. Don't ask if you're losing. Ask who's entering. Because if you keep exiting without intention, you're not just losing money. You're feeding the other side. And the truth is brutal. You're either the signal or the strategy. The market is never neutral. Every move has a price. Every exit funds an entry. And every hesitation becomes someone else's timing advantage. You might think you're just closing a losing position, but someone was counting on that exit. Someone built their setup around your discomfort, around your breaking point, around the moment they knew most traders would fold. Because while you stare at red numbers and feel your stomach tighten, they see liquidity. They see your pain as a tool. And the moment you surrender, they engage. The truth is uncomfortable. Your loss isn't just yours. It's someone else's edge. Most traders don't realize how visible their behavior is. They think because the market is anonymous, no one can read them. But price is psychology. And your reactions, your impulses, show up in the chart like a pulse. Patterns don't exist because the market is magical. They exist because people repeat the same emotional cycles. Over and over. Hope, fear, greed, regret. Your chart isn't lying. It's reflecting. And when enough people feel the same fear, at the same level, that fear becomes predictable. That's where the professionals are waiting. With patience, with capital, with precision. They don't need you to fail. They just need you to act like most do. Reactively, emotionally, without a plan. So when you place your stop just below that support level, they know. When you enter late on a breakout, they know. When you close too early, too scared, too tired, they're there. Not watching, executing. Because they don't need to guess what you'll do. They just need to stay calm long enough for you to break first. You're not being hunted, but you're being observed. And if you keep acting like every move is just about your strategy, you're ignoring half the game. You're not alone on the field. You're playing against someone who's seen your playbook. Not because they hacked you, but because you're repeating what everyone else already does. So if you want to stop bleeding at predictable levels, stop being predictable. If you want to stop handing over your trades at the worst possible time, stop exiting on emotion. Stop making your discomfort their entry point. Because the market doesn't take prisoners. It just rewards the ones who stayed composed when everyone else cracked. Every trade has two sides. You're either the one absorbing the panic or the one delivering it. And right now, you need to decide who you want to be. There's always someone on the other side. You might not see them. You might not know their name. But the second you click, they're there. A bot, a fund, a veteran trader, a cold system, watching the same levels, waiting for the same slip. You sell, they buy. You give up, they start building. You think it's just a loss. They think it's just day one. And no, this isn't some conspiracy. It's just structure, logic, behavior. Because this market runs on behavior, patterns of human reaction. And the more emotional you are, the easier you are to read. If your actions are built on emotion, someone else's actions are built on you. That's why entries and exits aren't just numbers. They're signals. To someone else, they mean opportunity. Your panic has a price. Your hesitation has value. Your pain creates alignment. You aren't trading in a vacuum. You're trading inside a system that survives by absorbing your reactions and repurposing them for profit. Every time you click without clarity, you're contributing to someone else's edge. You might think you're escaping a bad trade, but someone positioned for your escape. You might think you're cutting losses, but someone turned that flush into a fill. The ones who win aren't just better with entries. They're better with silence, with patience, with sitting. They know that the best trades are built on the actions of others, especially the rushed ones, especially the obvious ones. That support you thought would hold, they knew it wouldn't, because it didn't have structure, it had hope. That breakout you chased, they were already scaling out. You're always late if you're reacting. You need to stop pretending you're invisible. You're not. You're legible. Your habits are mapped. Your patterns have a price. The question is, when will you change the script? Because until you do, you're just another piece of liquidity. A participant without intention. A trigger for someone else's playbook. This isn't about being paranoid. It's about being aware. If you keep treating trading like you're alone in a room, you'll keep walking into traps. Over and over again. But when you realize someone's always on the other side, you'll stop making it easy for them. So don't be obvious. Don't be emotional. Don't be early. Let them come to you. Let them overreact. Let them create your setup. Because real advantage starts when you stop reacting and start watching them instead. Fear doesn't just move the market. It feeds it. Every time you feel that tension in your chest, that urge to click out, that voice telling you it's all about to crash, someone is counting on it. Because fear is the most predictable input in trading. It spikes the same way, in the same places, for the same reasons. Not because the market is cruel, but because most traders never learn how to hold still. You get close to profit, then it pulls back. You feel exposed, vulnerable, like you're about to lose it all, even if nothing's really changed. That's not your edge talking. That's your biology. And the moment you let that biology lead, you hand over your advantage. Smart money knows this. They know you'll flinch. They know you'll hesitate. They know you'll interpret every red candle like the end of the world. That's when they strike. They don't need to manipulate anything. They just need to wait. Wait for your blood pressure to rise. Wait for your confidence to drop. Wait for the moment your strategy collapses under your emotions. Because fear creates liquidity. Panic creates volume. And they know exactly where the pain points sit because they've been watching. Not your face. Not your thoughts. Just your footprints. Your history. Your patterns. Your exits. When fear spikes, you react. And when enough people react the same way, it creates a map. A behavioral map of high-probability exits. They don't need to be right. They just need you to be afraid first. And you usually are. But it doesn't have to be like that. Because fear isn't the problem. Reaction is. You can feel it and still hold. You can sense the pressure and still follow your plan. But most traders don't. They let the emotion dictate the exit. They click out before the structure says it's over. And they call it risk management, when really, it's just relief seeking. Fear-based exits feel safe in the moment. But long-term, they bleed you. Quietly, slowly, until you start believing that the market is random, when really, your reactions are. So here's the shift. Let them feel the fear first. Let them rush out. Let them trigger your setup, not your nerves. Because the moment you stop being predictable under pressure is the moment they stop profiting off your fear. Most traders don't realize just how transparent their impulses are. You think you're being discreet, that your stop is hidden, that your entry was clever. But the market has seen you before, and it's not impressed. Because when you enter late on a breakout, someone exits. When you cut early during a pullback, someone enters. And when you sell into a drop, thinking you're escaping, you're actually confirming the setup for someone else. Your impulses are readable. Your timing is visible. Your hesitation has rhythm. And that rhythm builds the structure the professionals rely on. They don't trade against you emotionally. They trade around you strategically. You're not their enemy, you're their context. Every impulsive entry you take becomes part of their setup. Every time you chase a move, you provide the liquidity they need to exit. Every time you flinch at resistance, you reinforce the level they plan to build off. The sad truth is this: you keep giving them position without even knowing it. And they don't have to outsmart you. They just have to wait long enough for you to act like everyone else. It's not because you're unintelligent. It's because you're untrained. You still act on emotion, on pressure, on what you feel. And that's exactly what makes you easy to use. They know your habits, your stops, your favorite entries, your targets. Not because they watch you specifically, but because you trade like a crowd. And the crowd is always visible. So when you chase a breakout, they let you. When you get shaken out on a fake out, they thank you. When you cut your win short because of one candle, they reload. They don't fight you. They harvest you. And until you realize this, you'll keep playing the role you didn't choose, the one who provides entries and exits for everyone else. But it doesn't have to stay that way. You can slow down. You can stop entering based on feelings. You can stop acting just because the market moved. Because once you stop acting on impulse, you start acting with leverage. And the moment you stop chasing, they lose their favorite liquidity source, you. They know exactly where your pain lives. It's not magic, it's data. And after years of watching how traders behave, how you behave, the system has mapped where you break. Not always by one pip, not every time, but often enough to turn your stop loss into someone else's entry. And it makes sense. Most traders place their stops in the same places, just below support, just above resistance, right under the wick, right behind the last high. Clean, logical, textbook, and exactly where you get hunted. Because when your stop is obvious, it's not protection, it's a magnet. It tells the system where to reach, where to stretch, where to dip, just deep enough to collect. You see it as a line of safety. They see it as a doorway. You think you're managing risk. They know you're just prepaying them to take your position. And here's the worst part, most traders don't even notice. They get stopped out, watch the price reverse perfectly, and think, it was just unlucky. No, it was designed. Because the market doesn't respect tight stops. It tests them. That's the job of the market, to find out who's real. And tight, emotional stops are usually the first to be removed. They call it a sweep, a fake out, a trap. But it's not random. It's systematic. It's built into the way liquidity works. Your stop loss isn't invisible. It's just small enough to be used. So what do? Trade without a stop? No, that's suicide. But you need to stop placing stops based on fear. Stop using what feels safe. Start thinking like the other side. Ask, if I were them, where would I hunt me? Because that question alone can flip your edge. You'll start placing your exits with logic, not emotion. You'll start choosing your levels with patience, not pressure. You'll stop giving away position just to feel protected. Because protection without intention is exposure. And if you don't know where your pain lives, someone else will find it for you. You hear the term liquidity grab thrown around like it's some complex phenomenon. But most of the time, it's not complicated. It's just this: they needed your exit before they could enter. And you gave it to them, willingly, predictably. Because when a candle spikes violently into your stop, then immediately reverses, that wasn't random. That wasn't noise. That was need. The market needed orders to fill a position. Yours were there. Clean. Clustered. Easy. You weren't targeted personally. But your behavior, your habits, were predictable enough to be harvested. This is the nature of modern trading. Algorithms don't care about your fear, your dreams, or your screen time. They care about imbalance. They care about flow. And your stop loss is a signal of flow. When a wave of traders all place their exits in the same spot, they create a pocket of fuel. And someone or something will use it, not out of malice, but because that's how the system survives. It seeks the path of least resistance. And your panic provides that path. You might call it manipulation, but from their side, it's just execution. They saw the same pattern you did. But instead of entering with the crowd, they waited for the crowd to get uncomfortable and entered after the damage was done. You got out to avoid more pain. They got in because the pain already peaked. That's how it works. That's how it always worked. And no, this doesn't mean the market is rigged. It just means it's built on pressure points. Your exits build theirs. Your flush becomes their foundation. So here's the shift. Stop thinking of your stop loss as a safe zone. It's not. It's a data point, a tradable event, a moment of clarity for the other side. If you want to survive long term, you need to stop exiting where everyone else does. You need to build your risk plan in places that require discipline, not convenience. Because if your stop is easy, it's useless. And if your exit is obvious, it's exploitable. You don't need to be invisible, but you do need to be intentional, precise, strategic. Because the more obvious your behavior, the more valuable you become to someone else. Patterns don't repeat because the market is mystical. They repeat because you do. Every time you feel that rush of excitement, someone's already seen it. Every time you panic because a candle pierced a line, someone has watched that same story play out hundreds of times. The market isn't magical. It's behavioral. It's built on rhythm. And most traders never break theirs. That's why the same traps work. That's why fake outs still trigger stops. That's why fear-based exits still fill someone else's order. Because you're not the first. You're just the most recent. Human emotion is the most consistent indicator in this game. And until you stop acting like a first-time visitor, you'll keep making first-time mistakes. Look at the chart. Look past the price. What you're seeing isn't just structure, it's memory. Memory of where traders entered too late, where they bailed too early, where they believed the move too soon. You're not just reading price. You're reading regret. And if you don't know how to read it, you become part of it. Think about how many times you've cut too soon, only to watch it run. Think about how often you've waited for the perfect entry, only to miss it completely. That's not bad luck. That's the rhythm, the loop, the cycle you've been caught in without realizing. And the pros? They're not immune to emotion. They've just trained themselves to recognize the loop, to pause when others react, to wait when others flinch, to press when others hesitate. They don't chase because they've seen what happens next. They don't flinch because they've watched how most traders collapse. And you can be one of them. But first, you have to acknowledge that your behavior is part of a script written by fear, greed, and impatience. And if you want out, you rewrite it. You start doing what others won't. You start holding when it hurts, waiting when it's boring, planning when it feels easier to click. Because once you break the pattern, you start to trade with power. Not from emotion, not from noise, but from stillness. And in a market full of repetition, stillness is rare, which makes it valuable. And value, real value, always gets paid. You think the system is against you. It's not. It's just built for someone else. Because the market isn't fair. It isn't designed to reward effort. It's designed to reward precision, patience, strategy, and above all, control. Not over the chart, over yourself. And when you don't have that control, the system doesn't punish you, it uses you. Your attention becomes its energy. Your urgency becomes its opportunity. Your need to be right becomes fuel for someone who's okay being wrong, as long as they're aligned with structure. You see price move, and you feel the pull. You want to act, click, enter, exit, do something. But the ones who built this system, they wait. They let you create the move, let you push into the level, let you overshoot, let you exhaust yourself, and then they step in. Because liquidity isn't some random pool. It's made of people like you, acting out of need, out of fear, out of I don't want to miss it. And the system thrives on that. The way price moves isn't emotional, but it reflects emotion. It reflects every trader that jumped in too soon, everyone who couldn't sit still, everyone who exited because they couldn't handle the pressure. That collective behavior is what drives the machine. And if you don't understand that, you're not trading, you're participating in your own exploitation. But once you do understand it, everything shifts. You stop reacting to price and start interpreting it. You stop trying to predict direction and start reading pressure. You stop asking, where can I win? And start asking, where are they vulnerable? Because this isn't a guessing game. It's an auction, a war of patience, a slow, brutal extraction of those who move first for the benefit of those who wait. You don't need to beat the system. You need to stop feeding it. Don't be the one providing liquidity to someone else's plan. Don't be the easy exit. Don't be the emotional entry. Don't be the reason someone else gets paid. Be the pause. Be the wall. Be the one who doesn't blink when the others can't stop twitching. Because once you stop being useful to the system, you become dangerous to it. Not every breakout is real. Not every candle is truth. And not every move is what it looks like. The market has mastered illusion. Because it doesn't need to move price far. It just needs to move you. One sharp wick. One engulfing candle. One big green bar, and you're in. But what if that move wasn't meant to continue? What if it was only meant to pull you in? That's the part most traders don't get. Some moves are designed to reverse. Not by manipulation, but by intention, by structure, by the need to grab orders before the real direction begins. So when you see price explode through a level and you feel that itch to chase slow down, ask yourself, who's on the other side of this move? Because when it's obvious, it's usually bait. When it looks perfect, it's often setup. When it feels urgent, you're probably late. The market doesn't reward speed. It rewards alignment. If you're entering on confirmation that everyone else sees, your liquidity. If you're acting on the same impulse every retail trader feels, you're late. If you're buying just because price moved fast, you're food. Smart traders don't react to movement. They decode it. They ask, who benefits from this candle? Who needed that breakout? What got filled when that wick swept through the high? Because they know that not all moves are about continuation. Some are about collection, clearing stops, triggering entries, filling orders, resetting the game. That's why so many traders get trapped, because they confuse movement with meaning. Just because it moved doesn't mean it's real. Just because it broke doesn't mean it'll run. Price moves for many reasons, but the only one that matters is, does this move fit the structure, or does it just fit your emotions? If you're honest, you'll admit that most of your losses came from acting on moves that felt urgent, that looked powerful, that screamed go now. And almost every time, you were wrong, because your sense of urgency was manufactured. The market gave you the illusion of opportunity, and you turned it into risk. But it doesn't have to stay that way. You can start looking deeper. You can stop chasing. You can let the trap spring without stepping into it. Because once you stop believing every move is meant for you, you start seeing which ones actually are. Your mindset is more important than your strategy. Your psychology shapes your trades more than your setup ever will. And until you accept that, you'll keep sabotaging yourself, no matter how good your technicals are. Because the chart doesn't beat you. The market doesn't beat you. Your own reaction does. You can have the perfect plan, the right level, ideal risk to reward. But if you panic when it draws down, if you cut when it breathes, if you hesitate when it's time to press, it doesn't matter. You won't survive. Most traders don't lose because they don't know what to do. They lose because they don't do what they know. They enter with a plan and abandon it the second it hurts. They draw a zone and override it when price gets loud. They journal a setup and then ignore their own notes. It's not a technical problem. It's emotional, identity level. And if you don't fix the identity behind the execution, the strategy won't save you. Ask yourself, are you the type who needs confirmation? Or are you the one who trades conviction? Do you follow through on your rules or rewrite them mid-trade? Do you manage risk or manage comfort? Because your P&L is just a reflection of your internal state. Nothing more. If you're afraid, it shows. If you're unsure, it leaks. If you're desperate, it's obvious. And the market doesn't forgive that. It doesn't coach you. It doesn't correct you. It just takes. So your job isn't just to build a strategy. It's to build a mindset strong enough to stick to it. You need to train calm under pressure. You need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You need to stay still when everything in you wants to react. Because once you master your own behavior, the market becomes simple. Not easy, but simple. Structure will guide you. Discipline will protect you. And execution will become clean. But until that happens, you'll keep leaking. Emotionally, financially, energetically. So fix the core. Because profits don't come from better indicators. They come from better decisions. And better decisions come from a quieter mind. Control yourself, or the market will do it for you. You keep trying to time the market, but the truth is, you don't need perfect timing. You need better timing discipline. Because it's not about picking the exact candle. It's about waiting for the right conditions, letting the market show its hand, acting only when the pieces align. But that's not what most traders do. Most chase. They anticipate the move instead of preparing for it. They jump in because it feels like it's about to go. But guessing is an edge. It's ego disguised as instinct. You want to feel in control, so you rush the entry. You want to feel early, so you force the setup. You want to catch the top or bottom, because it makes you feel smart. But trading isn't about feeling smart. It's about surviving long enough to get consistent. And consistency doesn't come from forcing timing. It comes from mastering rhythm. The rhythm of waiting, watching, letting the trap play out without stepping in. Professional traders don't enter because price moved. They enter because time and price converged, because liquidity was swept, because structure confirmed, because risk made sense. You don't need to guess what will happen next. You just need to wait until the edge is clear, and only then act. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting, but it's effective. The market doesn't reward speed. It rewards clarity. So stop trying to be first. Be correct. Because chasing entry might feel powerful, but patience is what actually pays. You want the trade to come to you. Let it unfold. Let it breathe. Let the amateurs trigger the move, then take their spot once they're gone. It's not about jumping the gun. It's about sitting through the noise until the signal is undeniable. Timing isn't a prediction. It's alignment. You're not forecasting the weather. You're learning when to walk outside. And when that mindset clicks, everything shifts. You stop clicking out of anxiety. You stop entering out of boredom. You stop forcing the chart to move when it isn't ready. Because once you stop trying to time the market, you start trading in sync with it. And that's when entries feel effortless. That's when exits make sense. That's when you stop bleeding randomness and start harvesting rhythm. So stop rushing. Start observing. Let the trap close, and then strike. Not early. Not late. Just clean. Every time you exit, you create a signal. Every time you close a trade, especially in fear, you leave a footprint. And someone is using that footprint to walk into position. You think it's just getting out. But to someone else, it's opportunity. To someone watching, your exit is a green light. A pocket of liquidity. A moment of imbalance they can lean into. And that means one thing. Your reaction becomes their edge. It's not personal. It's structural. Your exit isn't isolated. It feeds the system. Because exits aren't neutral. They're energy transfers. You drop out, they load in. And the more impulsive your exit is, the more valuable it becomes. Because it wasn't part of a plan. It was emotion, fear, discomfort, and the market eats that. But here's the problem. You still treat your exit like a personal choice. You still think it's just about cutting a loss or protecting profit. You don't realize it's a variable in someone else's equation. Until you do, you'll keep exiting in places that give others the upper hand. You'll keep pressing close at the worst possible time, not because your logic was wrong, but because your timing was emotional. That's the trap. You focus so much on the entry that you ignore the exit. And exits done wrong will destroy more accounts than bad entries ever will. Because the exit is where pressure peaks, where identity shows, where decisions get murky. And if you haven't trained your exit, it's probably betraying you. So train it. Treat your exit like a weapon, not an escape. Build the habit of exiting on data, not discomfort. Learn to sit through the shakeout. Learn to hold until the structure breaks, not your nerves. Because when you exit on your terms, you're dangerous. But when you exit on emotion, you're fuel. They don't need your full account. They just need a piece. And you keep giving it to them, one reaction at a time. But now you see it. Now you know. Your exit isn't invisible. It's visible, valuable, traceable. So make it intentional. Because when your exit stops being free energy for the other side, they have to work harder. And in this game, making the other side work harder is already a win. The game shifts when you stop trying to predict and start watching, because most traders are too busy reacting to pay attention. They see price move and they chase it. They see rejection and they run. They feel pressure and they act. But what if you did nothing? What if, instead of always trying to be inside the move, you stood outside it and watched how the others behaved? Because there's power in silence, in distance, in observation. You start noticing things you missed before. Where the crowd enters, where stops cluster, where fear builds. You begin to see the rhythm behind the noise, not the price itself, but what the price is revealing. When you stop trading for a moment, you stop being prey. You're no longer part of the herd. You're tracking it. You see the trap before it springs. You see the same breakout that failed yesterday, building again today. And this time, you're not in it, you're above it. That's the edge few develop. The patience to sit still, to study instead of chase, to wait instead of react. Because not every setup needs your entry. Some just need your attention. Let the amateurs trigger the breakout. Let the bots flush the low. Let the panic push the wick deeper than it should have gone. You don't need to fight them. You just need to let them do what they always do, and then step in after. Because when you become the observer, you see what most traders never do, not just price, but intention. Not just candles, but behavior. And that behavior is predictable. Traders overreact. They crowd together. They chase too high, sell too low, overtrade and overthink. You've done it too, but now you're watching, and that alone gives you power. Because the best trades often come right after the worst decisions, not yours, but theirs. And when you stop being part of those decisions, you can finally start building off of them. Let them panic. Let them rush. Let them give you the setup. Because stillness isn't passive, it's preparation. And when you stop playing like a trader, you start thinking like a predator. You don't need more trades. You need better ones. Because most of your losses didn't come from bad analysis. They came from bad timing. You saw something that looked good and jumped. You had the idea, but couldn't wait for it to mature. You felt the urge and confused it with opportunity. But great entries don't feel urgent. They feel inevitable. They're quiet, clean, obvious after the fact, but silent when they appear. The best trades aren't forced. They're found, and they're found where others are weak. When the crowd is shaken out, when the stops are cleared, when the pressure fades, when the setup is there, but no one's left to take it. That's when your entry matters. You don't want to be the first in. You want to be the last clean one before the move starts. The one who enters when the risk is defined. The one who's not rushing, just stepping into alignment. But that takes discipline. It takes sitting on your hands when the temptation is high. It takes skipping trades that could work, because you're waiting for the one that has to. You build edge by entering where the others exited, by stepping in where they were stopped out, by buying where they sold in fear, by selling where they bought in greed. Because that's what structure is. It's not just levels. It's footprints, emotion, damage. It's where price reveals who got caught, and where you get to take their place. Stop thinking your entry needs to be the bottom or the top. It doesn't. It just needs to be placed where pressure has shifted, where the trap has closed, where the other side is already bleeding. You're not trying to be clever. You're trying to be precise. So let the others overthink. Let them jump early. Let them call it too soon. And when they're gone, when they've left their stops behind, step in. Calm, focused, aligned. Because your best entries won't be the ones that felt exciting. They'll be the ones that felt like confirmation, like control, like the pressure lifted, and your job was simply to fill the space they left behind. Your exit isn't the end. It's a message, a position, a decision that echoes through your next trade, whether you realize it or not. But too often, your exit is just a reaction. You close out because it hurts, because you're tired, because you feel exposed. And in doing so, you abandon control. You're not exiting with clarity, you're escaping with emotion. And here's the part most traders miss. Exits build your next entry. They shape your mindset. They write the story you carry into the next chart. So if your exits are sloppy, fearful, or rushed, your next trade will be poisoned by regret. But if your exits are clean, intentional, aligned with structure, your next trade becomes easier, lighter. You're no longer carrying baggage. You're moving forward with momentum. Every exit should serve a purpose. Either lock in profit, cut calculated loss, or protect capital after structure breaks. That's it. If you're exiting just to feel better, you're losing twice. You lose the trade, and you lose the rhythm. Because rhythm matters. And exits are where rhythm breaks. It's where emotions flare, where hesitation creeps in, where doubt becomes louder than logic. You must learn to exit like a professional, with the same intention you used to enter, with logic, with control, with structure. You don't just close because price dipped. You close because the story changed, because the chart gave you a reason, because your plan accounted for this, and you're following through. That's how consistency is built. Not by winning every trade, but by ending every trade on your terms. The market can take your profit. It can take your plan, but it should never take your clarity. And if your exit feels like surrender, you weren't prepared. So prepare. Know your level. Know your line. Know your limit. And when the time comes, don't hesitate. Don't argue with the candle. Don't beg for reversal. Exit with authority. Because when you treat your exit like it matters, your trading changes. Suddenly, you stop needing revenge. You stop doubting the process. You stop spiraling into overtrading. And you realize, one clean exit is more powerful than 10 messy trades. So exit with weight, with reason, with focus, because how you leave decides how you come back. You want to trade like a professional, but you still think like prey. You act fast because you're scared of missing. You exit early because you're scared of losing. You chase because you're scared of watching something move without you. And fear doesn't build an edge. It builds exposure. Predators don't chase noise. They stalk structure. They wait. They study. They conserve energy. And when the moment's right, they strike. Not because they're impulsive, but because the setup demands it. Most traders never get to that place. They stay reactive, trigger happy, always looking for the next signal, the next pump, the next candle to justify another entry. But they never pause long enough to ask, who's benefiting from this behavior? Because when you overtrade, you're feeding someone. When you enter early, you're filling someone else's position. When you panic exit, you're giving away the exact liquidity the system was built to collect. It's not that you're weak. It's that you've been conditioned to move fast, to avoid discomfort, to escape uncertainty. But the deeper truth, discomfort is the filter. Most can't sit through it, and that's where the edge begins. You need to become the kind of trader who waits through the discomfort, who holds through the indecision, who prepares quietly while others flinch, because that's what predators do. They don't need to move first. They just need to move last, cleanly, confidently when the timing is right. You don't get paid for effort. You get paid for execution, precision, patience. And right now, your actions don't reflect a hunter. They reflect someone trying not to get hurt. But this isn't about survival. It's about control. Control over your entries, over your exits, over your state. So start trading like you deserve to be on the other side of the transaction. Start holding like you know where this goes. Start thinking like the one who's being hunted has already left the chart. Because when you stop being prey, you stop bleeding. And when you finally start acting like a predator, you start collecting. You've spent enough time reacting. Now it's time to build intention. Because trading without intention is just donation. It's movement with no message, action with no weight. It looks like you're active, but you're just available. And available traders get used. Every click should mean something. Every entry should have structure behind it. Every exit should serve a purpose. Not just because it felt right, but because it fit the plan. Most traders build trades out of emotion. They enter because price moved fast. They exit because it dipped. They add size because they have a feeling. And then they wonder why their account keeps slipping. It's not because the market is broken. It's because their process is. You can't afford to keep clicking without clarity. Every trade you place should be part of something bigger. A narrative, a structure, a trap, not for you, but for someone else. Because your job isn't just to survive the market. It's to build pressure against the crowd. To make your move feel like noise, when it's actually signal. To position inside fear, and let others confirm your bias with their exits. You're not waiting for the green candle. You're waiting for the conditions to flip. You're not hoping for the perfect level. You're identifying where the other side is weakest. You're not praying for a breakout. You're stalking imbalance. That's intention. And it's rare, because most traders don't have the patience. They don't want to wait for confluence. They want to act now, even if it costs them. But you know better now. You know your move means nothing if it's early. You know risk is worthless if it's not controlled. You know price alone isn't enough. You need reason. So stop chasing setups. Start creating them. Let the market show its hand. Let the amateurs play their part. Let the emotion peak. And then move with clarity, with sharpness, with weight. Because when your trades are built on intention, not impulse, your losses become lessons, not liabilities. And your wins, they stop being luck. They become the result of precision, not hope. You don't need to fight back with noise. You don't need to scream your comeback. The best revenge in this market is survival. Quiet, precise, relentless. Because most traders burn out. Not from one bad trade, but from spiraling, from reacting, from needing to prove something to a chart that doesn't care. But when you stop needing revenge and start thinking in cycles, you change. You don't get mad after a loss, you study it. You don't chase after a missed move, you reset. You don't press out of frustration, you sit. And that stillness, that control, that's the sharpest weapon you have. Because the ones who last don't trade bigger. They trade cleaner. They don't seek drama, they build discipline. They don't take it personally, they take it seriously. You start winning when you stop treating the market like it owes you something. It doesn't. It never did. It gives nothing, it only reveals. It reveals how much pressure you can take, how long you can wait, how sharp your entries are when you're not chasing, how calm your exits are when you're not bleeding. Every day, the market gives you a test. And most fail. Not because they're stupid, but because they're loud. They overreact. They overtrade. They overcompensate. But you've started to sit longer, hold tighter, think clearer. You've started to let others run out of breath while you breathe deeper. That's your revenge. You outlast the reckless. You ignore the noise. You stay grounded while they swing wild. And when they're gone, margin called over-leveraged, emotionally drained, you're still here. Clicking less, risking wisely, acting with purpose. No drama. No show. Just progress. Because revenge isn't a big win on one lucky trade. It's surviving the seasons, adapting through cycles, sharpening while others self-destruct. That's how you win. Not loudly, not instantly, but slowly, quietly, every time. Now you see it. Every exit wasn't just yours, it was theirs. Every panic you felt, someone else turned into position. Every impulse you followed, someone used as confirmation. And it's not because they're smarter. It's because they're still. And you were loud. Until now. Because now you know what this game really is. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present. Not about control, but clarity. Not about knowing more, but reacting less. You've seen how your exits shape entries, how your fear becomes their fuel, how your hesitation becomes someone else's confidence. And now you're done giving that away. No more sloppy trades. No more just because entries. No more exits built on pressure. From now on, everything you do carries weight. You don't trade to escape. You trade to express understanding. You don't chase, you wait. You don't panic, you plan. Because you're no longer the one the market hunts. You're the one who watches. You let others bleed first. You let others break first. You let others move first. And when they do, you step in. Not with hope, with design. That's the shift. From noise to edge. From movement to meaning. From reaction to presence. And that space between trigger and response, that's where you live now. That's your home. That's your power. You're no longer just a person who knows strategy. You're a person who can follow it under pressure. And in this market, that's the rarest skill of all. The one that separates noise from legacy. So breathe in, reset, and walk forward like someone who finally understands what this game was always about. Because you're not here to trade more. You're here to trade right. And now, you're ready.